Hello guys, this is the Hexagon Zero and welcome back to another episode of Multiplayer Mondays. Alrighty then, we are here on the new Dragon's Teeth map, Lumfini? I don't know. It's the Gardens map with the giant mudslide and a big Levolution event that DICE pushed in their trailer for it. You know, with the knifing schematic and the counter-knifing bull mechanism that they currently have in the game. So, yeah. And this is not the first time I recorded a garden game. The one directly before this, actually, I did. And it didn't go too well. Our team was getting trounced for almost... That was a nice evolution there. A guy got crushed by the falling. There's two of those. There's one behind me and there's one in front. Anyway, that's a ballistic shield if you don't know. And yes, that is my emblem emblazoned on the top. And it's also on the front. But... we were getting trounced, essentially, and one of the other guys decided to start trash-talking our entire team, part of his own team, and then also me specifically, because I made a comment about, well, he was talking about how everybody was just assholes, and I basically said, oh, sounds like someone's a little butthurt. So, it's a terrible pun, yes, I know. And so he kind of had a deep-seated hatred for me that didn't actually occur until the end of the match when I said, you know how GG is good game and BG is bad game. So out of the giant slew of GGs that emerged from the enemy team, as they normally do, because A, they won, and B, they had a nice time. And in case you're wondering, yes, that shield glass can shatter, and then the next sniper shot will indeed kill you if they manage to get it through the mail slot. But it's kind of unlikely, considering it's a very small opening and you're typically moving. Yeah, so he jumped on the chance there and said, Hex, you were sniping the entire time, you don't get to complain. Well, let's examine that statement here for just a second. The kind of hatred towards anybody sniper... Yeah, that's a RAR, I lose. The hatred towards any sniper-y type character or somebody who essentially just sits back and fires the entire game and doesn't get directly involved in the action is something that's quite common in a lot of FPS games right now. You get it in Call of Duty, and nobody likes the hard-scoping sniper. Some guy who just sits at the edge of the map the entire time and fires random pop shots and maybe gets 9-8 kills a match. Of course, I can't argue the point that anybody on the front lines could get 9 or 8 kills a match, just they'd have more deaths. So, is sniping really a bad thing, just to kind of sit back and snipe the entire time? My answer is no. It's not. I mean, it's annoying, yeah, because you just got this other guy at the far end of the map. He'd see you for miles if you're trying to go kill him. And your only solution is to either ignore him or try and kill him by becoming exactly what you're trying to kill. So, sometimes I don't get the hatred towards snipers. It doesn't make sense. I mean, they're in the game for a reason. There's a giant class devoted to them. It's called snipers, and there's a whole bunch of different snipers, there's a whole bunch of different attachments, there's a whole bunch of different sights, there's a whole bunch of different playstyles associated with it. There is the medium-range sniper, someone who kind of hangs back, maybe just on the... If you imagine the battle like a wave, like troops moving as a wave, then they're maybe at the back of the wave. And then there's the aggressive sniper gameplay style, and that's where you're typically on the front line with a fast reloading or fast firing sniper, or both, and you're running around shooting people in the head with one shot, with probably a suppressor on an M408A5 with a straight pull bolt. But, you know, you could easily do it with the CS5 or something else. Anyway, and then there's the snipers that we've been talking about. The long-range snipers sit back the entire time and fire repeatedly at things, little ants out on the battlefield, hoping to get lucky and land a shot. All of those are good. All of those are in the game. There's nothing you can do about it except complain. Or you could just simply accept it and realize that this is an actual world technique. You do not ever find a sniper in the military sitting in the trench on the front line, unless they're trying to take out specific armaments. But typically they're like a mile back with a buddy testing wins. they're not up on the front line. It's a stupid place to put a sniper because, well, they're more accessible, and B, snipers are kind of taking a long time to train. You're a guy sitting alone in a room with headset on screaming at 8-year-olds. Or a girl. Either way, really. So, I don't see a problem with it. A lot of people do, because I think it's just, you know, not exactly right, I guess you could say. But anyway, I'm showing you guys here the Levolution. As actually in the previous gameplay where I got a little bit ticked at the other guy, he killed me before I could show it, or view it and everything, so... See that guy right down there, my teammate? He's about to get killed by the mudslide. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and he's dead. So the mudslide, anyway, that was my spiel on snipers. It's not a stupid tactic, people. It's an actual thing. You know, accept it or ignore it. The Levolution on this map is incredible. It's one of the best Levolutions we've ever gotten in a DLC. Because, and I know a lot of other YouTubers, most notably LevelCap, Matimio, and Frankie on PC and 1080p, have all illustrated that this is the best Levolution that we have, and it actually makes the game better. And they've listed that the Levolution on Siege of Shanghai is terrible, simply because it is a scripted event that happens exactly the same way every single time. Well, of course, all Levolutions do, but it's one point they did make, and it's essentially in a building that falls quite awesomely and then awkwardly transitions into rubble on the ground. There's no rolling of the rubble. There's no variation in the rubble. It's like that every single time. And I understand that, you know, it's a map. You're not expecting to play it, and then it's like you're reenacting the same battle with different players. Literally, that's what a map is supposed to be. It's a place to fight, and with Levolution, it's a place to fight well. So, this is a good Levolution. It's a mudslide. It provides, the cover there is pretty sparse already. It's a whole bunch of buildings, not really buildings with thick walls. It's all destructible environment over in the section where the mud does happen. And then the mud does happen, and then you get hills, you get rolling slides, you still have some of the buildings, they're just now covered a bit more in mud. You get shipping containers that have been kind of upended and angled and on the slants and everything, and that's fun to fight around in. And in the previous game, the one where I got ticked at this other guy, I triggered it immediately at the start of the game. And I'm disappointed that that other guy got that shot, because that would have been a perfect headshot. But I triggered it at the very start of the game. And how you trigger it, because a lot of people don't actually know how, is there's two buttons on these two floodgates that you can see along the right side of the map on the river. If you click both of them to increase the pressure, as the prompt says, it will eventually trigger the mudslide. And I triggered it right off the bat, and people said, "Why did I do this right off the bat? I mean, that's stupid." Well, I figure you're going to be fighting in the same landscape anyway, and either it's going to happen or it's not going to happen, so might as well just fight on, my friend. If you don't like it, well, don't play. And that's really all I got for you. It's not really my concern as to what the battlefield is like for you. It's whether or not I like it. Now, of course, that is a little bit narcissistic and dumb. But, hey, I only did it once, and I did only do it for the purposes of showing people the Levolution. I don't actually trigger a lot of Levolutions. I've never triggered the Siege of Shanghai demolition. Never. But, yeah, so it's a nice new map. This bridge here with the railroads on it, it's like a sniper fest. And especially, you see those crates back there, slightly in my, just to the left of the scope? You can see that is a prime spot. If you are on the Chinese team, it is... Get back there with an SRR-61, hunter scope, and a bipod, and fire off at the entire game, because it's a large map, but it's a large open flat map. And yes, there is cover there, but there's really no verticality to be concerned about. So it's nice for that part. And of course, you can sit on the buildings at E and snipe the entire game. Of course, there's trees in the way, and that kind of helps, but it doesn't do much. I specifically hate this tree slightly out to our right here on A point. And I spend a lot... If you're on the US team and your team isn't doing too hot, you're going to spend a lot of time at A. And A, if you look at the space between A and the US spawn, it's terrible. If the enemy team has A and they're spawn killing you, essentially, you're screwed. Because there's only one exit out to the A objective. It's completely coverable from all angles. The enemy can walk right up to the sides of the wall and sit there shooting anything that comes out of it, and there's virtually no cover inside of the spawn, so snipers can just fire in. Whereas, if we look at the Chinese spawn point, it's completely surrounded by buildings. You can't get a clear shot at it through the sniper unless you're standing at a really open, awkward angle. And once you take E, which is literally 30 steps away from their spawn, you essentially have that natural for the entire game. And I call it a natural because I played StarCraft, and natural is your natural one on certain maps, but I call it the natural. Some people call it a gimme, either way. Yeah, so it's a little bit stupid to do with the map design, but honestly, if your team is worth half its salt, you're going to have A, and you're going to have A for most of the time. So it's not really that big of a concern. You can lose it if you push up too far. But the two points that I am particularly interested in this map are B and D. B is over there, as you can see, just slightly to the, well, actually directly behind me now. It's the garden portion of this map, essentially. And there's waterways that you can get jet skis on. In the previous round that I talked about, I put M2 slams on the inside of bridges, so just in case anybody in a vehicle happened to ride through, they'd be blown up. Unfortunately, no one did, but it's half the try. So B is particularly good because, and it's also particularly not good. It's not reachable by the mudslide. The mudslide doesn't get that far. It's almost entirely open, and there's indestructible bamboo. Yeah, so that's fun. And all the buildings are completely destructible as well. At least the walls, except for the stone wall in the main building at B. Or two walls. And I think there's one wall that's plaster, but it's indestructible anyway, just to provide some sense of cover. So yeah, B is open, it's interesting, it's flat, and it's kind of out of the way of the main battle. The main battle in these maps take place between A and C, or at C and then outward from there, and then eventually you lose C due to a big push from E or D, and, well, it just keeps on pushing back and forth. It's a giant tug-of-war. And then you have the added verticality of the railroad going out throughout the entire map. But B is a point that either rests in your control or the enemy control for basically the entire map. There's not much of a deviation in it. And D, if you're on the US team, you almost never see, because D has a giant corner facing the US team. It also has a large open area to run to if you want to take D. Even with the assistance of the mudslide, you still have to cross this little river that runs in between. It's kind of hard to get to. Of course, if you are running the assault kit aggressive and you've got the speed upgrade, it's a little bit easier. Simply because you can make it there faster. Or you swim the entire way, but that makes you more noticeable, especially when you have to come up for air. So it's a difficult point to get to. But if you control C, it's fairly easy to push right over to D. But if we examine the distance between E and D, we see that there's just a rail yard and a large amount of cover. It's not easy to snipe into, especially with the mudslide active, because it creates a large rolling hill in between you and the train yard area. It's also quite easy to run around in, and it's not particularly fun. So, yeah, D is a little bit hard to get to from the US team, but it's still doable, and it's quite enjoyable when you do, because then you have basic direct fire into this small little opening just off to the right of E if you're looking at it from the US deployment side, and it's, well, fun to snipe into that alleyway, as I did, I believe it was later in this gameplay, or it was later in the last time. I don't know. Anyway, the gun I'm using is the L85A2, and I believe I mentioned it last Multiplayer Mondays episode. I think I did. I don't know, I can't really remember. Either way, it's a very good gun. It's got a decent fire rate. It's got a nice bullet. It's got a nice TDK value, which is time. Actually, it's TTK, not TDK. Time to kill value, and it's the king of assault rifle hipfire. Its range is not too shabby. You can still hit a good distance, but the recoil is a little bit hard to manage. But the first shot recoil is virtually non-existent. There is a first shot recoil of like 1. I don't actually know the actual score from simtic.com, but it is very, very low. And so you may be wondering why I have an angle grip stuck on there. And my only explanation for you is, well, I have nothing else to stick on there aside from an ergo grip. And the hip fire in this thing is absolutely incredible anyway, so I figured, you know what, might as well give myself a 33% buff from an already 1% increase in... a decrease in first shot recoil. Its left and right kick is a little bit more, I believe it's a little bit more favoring the right. I don't typically fire this weapon long enough to hit those. I typically burst fire or tap fire it. So, yeah, I would not recommend using this gun on single fire mode, as pain typically happens when you develop arthritis in your index finger. So, yeah, very interesting weapon. I slapped a scope on it that would give me enhanced targeting capabilities. Essentially, it's got a 4 times... No, this is the it began with an M. Scope on it. It's a 3.4 times sight, which is nice. Ah, that hip fire, though. And I believe I have a laser sight. Do I have a laser sight? Yes, I have a laser sight stuck on here, just to give me that added hip fire bonus. You could do without it fairly easily, as... I'm kind of considering sticking a... No, still a laser sight. But yeah, that hip fire, it got me quite a few kills, especially running around an A with those 2 multi-sided staircases, which is honestly fun to get up. But if you get 2 guys with LMGs pushing up those staircases, your team is hooped, because, well, people have a tendency to stand in the path of bullets. I'm not really sure why, but they do. I've actually exhausted all the things I've got to talk about, and I've got 10 minutes left on this video. What can I discuss? Oh, there's been a whole bunch of gaming news recently. Let's see if I can pull that up. The Dota 2 tournament. I'm sure you guys have heard about that if you're subscribed to ESPN or whatever, esports. It's a giant push for gamers and the gaming community everywhere, so that's nice. Oh yeah, the Destiny beta came out, and as IGN did report, it is a glorified Halo MMO. I have no argument there. We all knew it was going to be that. It's made by Bungie, for Pete's sakes, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's actually pretty cool, and I like the fact that it's got Borderlands-y stuff in it too, and all that cool stuff. And also a whole bunch of Super Smash Bros. Stuff announced. I believe Rayman was added. I'm not really sure why. I think that there was an article about it somewhere. But the beta I'm more excited about is the crew beta. Now, on their official website, it says it goes live on July 23rd. They are, in fact, either wrong or IGN has a quick access to it, because I think they posted a video today, the 21st, about that said video with gameplay in it. And I believe it was a review. I'm trying to scroll through my Facebook feed right now to see if I can find it. And not by the looks. Oh, here it is, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, it's from Ubisoft. Sorry, it's not IGN. The Crew's PC closed beta is now live. Join lead mission designer Serkan Hassan for an exclusive walkthrough. If you haven't already signed up, sign up here. Yeah. I've signed up 4 times, and I'm not sure if they have a stat counter that says if you've signed up more than once you don't get in, but I really want to get into this beta. The Crew has been a game that I've been looking forward to since I first heard about it, and that was like a year ago. So, it looks incredible. It's a completely open world of the United States. You can drive from one end to the other, and it wasn't as big, I think, as they reported it to be, but it was still pretty freaking huge, and there's not a loading screen anywhere, which is, haha, yay! So, because loading screens suck, honestly. But it's still pretty cool, and I desperately want to get into this beta. I really hope they send me a code soon so I can get in, because you guys are going to get footage from that, and a lot of it too, because a little known fact about me, I enjoy driving games heavily. Dirt Showdown is a game that, back when I had exams, I would to take a break from it, because it can be loaded up so quickly. And to take a break from studying, I would load it up, play 15 minutes, and go back to studying. So, it's a very nice game to do. I was a little bit disappointed that it was so short, and the replayability somewhat falters because you can upgrade your cars ridiculously. But, you know, it was still a nice game to play, especially on a triple screen setup. So, that's nice. I really want to get into the beta, but if only Ubisoft would send me a code. Maybe one of you guys has a code for me. I don't know. Send me a private message, because if you comment it, someone else will take it. Guardians of the Galaxy come out soon. Marvel is essentially... I think the first Marvel movie that kind of came out was Iron Man 1. And Iron Man 1 kind of kicked off the whole franchise of Marvel movies, essentially. And it's taken off incredibly. It's like comic books to a new generation. That's how I'm going to describe it, except it's more for everybody, because you don't need to go to a store and buy a piece of paper. You go to a movie, you sit there for 2 hours, and then you go home, talk about it, and everybody enjoyed it. Except if it was a terrible movie. So, yeah, Marvel movies have kind of taken off, because it shows actors and heroes and stuff, people that are... I'm not going to say better than ourselves, but, you know, significantly more interesting. Maybe. I don't know. If you're wondering who my favorite superhero is, because all of you suddenly asked that question right now, and I'm totally not being A, paranoid, B, narcissistic, if it's from the DC universe, it's Superman. If it's from the Marvel universe, it's Iron Man. A lot of people are going to criticize me for liking Superman because, oh, he's just a complete overpowered hero. I do not contest that. He is completely overpowered. But it's more of the psychology behind Superman that attracts me towards him. Not that I'm attracted towards him. Not that... I'm going to stop talking. Anyway. And then Iron Man, because, well, I identify a lot with Tony Stark's narcissism, paranoia, essentially his mental issues, and... Come on. The Iron Man suit? I play Crisis. That's like... Hello, here's an Iron Man suit. Now, I'm honestly, in this gameplay, if I'm paying attention to it for once right now, as I'm sitting in a stupid spot, this bus is overturned. Yes, it does give you cover against mortars. It does not give you cover against bullets. Especially when they're firing with an LMG from over a river, essentially. And that makes it very, very hard to, well, not die. So that's nice. And there's been an increasing number of people who have successfully used the LMG sniping tactic. And I'm impressed, because at the beginning of this footage, you saw me using an M240B, and the range, at least the way out, the range on what I've set it up with, is terrible. Voice crack. And, see, indestructible bamboo. And I don't know how people do it, because they must sit down with a bipod, but then again, even a bipod, if you're running and gunning with an LMG, a bipod takes a little bit of time to set up. And also these hedges. Hedges piss me off. They do. They're indestructible. You can walk through some, you can't walk through others. I know they look different, but come on, consistency. Watch Dogs did it right. Their AI avoids hedges, and Aiden Pierce can walk right through them. Essentially, it's a free shortcut waiting to happen. That was my Spiegel on hedges, not hedgehogs. Blah. Blah, blah, blah. Keep on scrolling through Facebook feed. There's been a whole bunch of stuff on Assassin's Creed Unity, and Ubisoft is doing their normal hype routine for it. Let's see if the launch is anything better than Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed 4 or any other game that's been released since Assassin's Creed 2 by Ubisoft. Totally not hating on anything there. Comic-Con is in a couple days. In fact, it's this weekend. And unfortunately, I do not have the capability to go right now. Although I would like to go to Comic-Con sometime in the future. That would be nice. Yeah, gaming news and celebrities and stuff. No, networking. Networking's good. I'm gonna give you a bit of business advice here. If you're in high school, if you're anywhere, essentially, that gives you access to people, and considering there's like 7 billion of us, if not more, on this planet right now, you kind of have to be somewhere with access to people. So, my point is, network. Make friends. Yeah, it may be slightly harder if you have social anxiety issues or stuff like that, but seriously, the way the world runs right now, and it's not exactly the best thing, but it's the way it is, so sometimes you either have to, as a famous person once said that I can't remember the name of right now, if you want to see change, then you've got to be the change in the world. So if you want to see the change, be the change. And get others to be the change, but don't do it forcefully. That's called a dictatorship, or enforcement, or extortion, or blackmail, or you get what I mean. Do it justly. Stupid place to camp. I was trying to jump into the back of this trailer, but I realized how gimmicky that would be. So, yeah, the way the world runs right now is make friends. Because when it all goes to crap, the only people that are still probably going to be there. Anyway, ending on a slightly darker note than I had hoped. But yeah. More Dragon Thief gameplay coming out in the future. I promise I won't be so late with my Commander Mode episodes and a lot of other episodes, because I'm not uploading as much as I did, so I really have no excuse. So, yeah, I would like to thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, favorite, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff down in the thing, and I will see you guys next time. This is the Hexagon Zero, signing out.